Madam Chair, can we begin housekeeping comments?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-2432. That's 909-396-2432. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Gracias por participar en la reunión de hoy. Si asiste en persona, favor de no conectarse a la conferencia telefónica o Zoom mientras esté en el auditorio y silencie sus dispositivos. Si traducción es disponible, haga clic en el icono de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla para seleccionar inglés o español. Se tomarán comentarios del público después de cada punto. Si se encuentra en el auditorio y desea dar comentario, utilice los iPads ubicados en el vestíbulo o complete una tarjeta azul según esté disponible. Si necesita ayuda, localice a un empleado de South Coast AQMD. Los comentarios pueden ser limitados a un total de 3 minutos o menos para todos los puntos de la agenda. El tiempo límite puede ser reducido para que todos los comentarios puedan ser escuchados. Se mostrará un temporizador de cuenta regresiva en la pantalla para cada comentario público. Se asignará más tiempo para traducción al español si no es simultáneo. Si tiene preguntas o problemas sobre cómo hacer un comentario público, llame al asesor público al 909-396-2432. 909-396-2432. Respete el tiempo límite y favor de tratar a los demás con cortesía, civilidad y respeto. De lo contrario, es posible que se silencie el micrófono o que sea retirado de la reunión. Tenga en cuenta que esta reunión está siendo grabada. Al participar, usted autoriza la grabación de audio y contenido visual presentado durante el evento en vivo y da su consentimiento para el uso de la grabación en el dominio público por parte de South Coast AQMD.
Good morning. Let's call this meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum.
Here.
Supervisor Mitchell. Absent. Supervisor Perez. Absent. Councilmember Rahman. Absent. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
Here.
And Chair Delgado.
And I'm here. And I do hear, I was told that a few people would be running late, so.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, great. All right, let's get going with the agenda. Let's go to action item number 1. We've got a presentation by Dr. Epstein.
Madam Chair, unless there's objection, I would forego the presentation.
Oh, I think that's a good idea, unless anybody has an objection. We do have to make a motion on this item. Should we get a recommendation from staff on the motion?
Move the item.
Thank you, Wayne. That's nice and good and concise. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll move the item. We haven't had public comment yet.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. And we'll take that public comment. We have, do you have somebody live?
I don't believe so.
Okay. We have 2 hands raised, but I'm not sure that they're for this. Can staff check if it's for item number 1?
Online, we have Sal DiCostanzo. Sal, I think you're for item number 2. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, Wayne. Thank you.
Sure. There's nobody else online, Madam Chair.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So I don't see anybody's else hands raised for public comment. Can we get a roll call vote on that item, please? Actually, there's somebody, there are two people, but I'm guessing they're for the next item. No one who are raised their hand online.
Clyde F., if you're here to speak on item number 2, please sign up once we bring that item to the agenda. But right now, this is item 1, which is allocating funds for dust emissions evaluation and mitigation in Coachella Valley. And your hand's still raised, so you must want to speak. Unmute your microphone.
Decided not to.
Okay, let's get a roll call vote.
Empezamos. Voy a dar
I think the Spanish audio is,
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum,
Yes,
Supervisor Mitchell, Councilmember Rahman, Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez,
Yes.
Chair Delgado.
yes,
Passes with 3 ayes.
great. Okay, item number 2. We've got a presentation by Ian McMillan, I'm sorry. I saw Mayor McKellen and yeah. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead, Ian.
Thank you very much. There's probably some relation way back 1,000 years ago, but happy to be part of the clan. Okay, so we're here today to talk about the update on a potential cooperative agreement between South Coast AQMD and the ports of LA and Long Beach. So next slide, please. There is obviously a very long history here. We've gone through that before. I'm not going to go through all that history, just really focus on what is more recent. And so we have been working on proposed Rule 2304. We did this summer in July get a draft cooperative agreement submitted to us by the ports. At the August board meeting, staff was directed to begin negotiations on that with the ports and to pause rulemaking for 45 days and then to report back at the end of that 45-day period to Mobile Source Committee, and that would be today, and to seek direction. So next slide. I want to hit at the very beginning, what are the key things that we're going to be talking about today? So really the first thing I want to emphasize is that all of the parties have been negotiating in good faith. We have really been rolling up our sleeves, diving in deep, getting to some really thorny issues. And so there's been really good engagement from all the parties this entire time. And I'll say that has been very robust. We are happy to report that there is consensus that we have come to the negotiating parties on an updated draft cooperative agreement. And that is really focused on zero emissions infrastructure. And that really is the same exact focus and scope as what we have been pursuing in proposed Rule 2304. And we're seeking committee direction on what to do next, both on that updated draft cooperative agreement and on the proposed rule. Next slide. So just, kind of continue to work through it. So these negotiations, we've been meeting multiple times a week, multiple hours at a time, multiply times 3 about the number of internal discussions that are happening with all this. So really, really getting into it. I can say that we used that full 45-day period. I know at the August board meeting, I made my first call to port colleagues that same day, and discussions, and conversation about this has continued through yesterday. So the negotiating parties have included senior staff from South Coast AQMD and the ports of LA and Long Beach, and the mayor's office's staff have also been participating regularly. We did provide an update to the community in late August. That was relatively early still in the process, or maybe midway through the process, to just provide a status update and got some feedback. Ports participated in that and answered some questions as well, which was helpful. And we did release an updated draft cooperative agreement Tuesday of this week. I will note that that's not a red line version, and that's somewhat purposeful. One, it's just for ease of readability, but it's also to make sure that the language that everybody sees, it really is joint language, right? It reflects a joint understanding amongst the three parties. Next slide. So our focus really has been looking at zero emissions infrastructure. And the reason for that is we've been engaged in rulemaking for the ports since February of 2022. And that's been a long process, a lot of external conversations along the way, and working group meetings, and a lot of stakeholder engagement. And where that process took us was saying, if you want to get emission reductions at the ports, you have to get the infrastructure figured out first. That has to be the very first step. So of course, that's where we want to start here on negotiating on this agreement. But where that comes in when looking at the agreement itself, that would be fall under what's called CAP plus Measure 6, CAP Clean Air Action Plan. And so it's that sixth measure that's in that initial draft agreement that was provided to us. But there's the front pieces as well. And the front pieces of the recitals and the agreements that include a lot of provisions that govern everything that follows after that. Next slide. So we reported early on that there were some key concerns that we had right off the bat, and enforceability is number one. It's been the big stumbling block. We have not been able to get over that in previous negotiations, and it was the same issue that we knew was going to come up again. So it's number one here. There was a prohibition on rulemaking that we knew we had to get through. Trying to understand what is the role for South Coast AQMD. Are we just an observer, or do we have a more active role? There's a lot of problematic language scattered throughout that we wanted to address, and then public process. And that was not just a check the box exercise. We wanted to make sure that there's a way to include public process in the development of measures, and then as they are being implemented, to daylight what's happening, because these are really tough. And so we need to identify when there's issues, make it daylighted so that there's ways to fix it. Next slide. As we were going through the negotiations, we realized that many of these issues are not just a single issue. They're related. It's this interconnected web of issues where you pull on one strand and it pushes on another. And so I want to give one example here. And that's looking at our authority. And the initial draft agreement included a 10-year term to the agreement that also included a prohibition on rulemaking or development of control measures that are included in our AQMD. And so that came out in the agreement itself in rulemaking, development of control measures, and the duration. So three different things, and they're all related. On the rulemaking for ourselves, we really, the board retains authority on what to do on rulemaking. Those decisions remain with our board. That cannot be contracted away so that some other contracted party has a say in that. But at the same time, balancing this, we need to make sure there's sufficient time. If there's infrastructure development, that planning, that takes years, and there needs to be some certainty that if that plan is going to be developed and put into place, there needs to be a little certainty, so some time built in for that. Thinking about control measures, of course, we have requirements under the air quality management plans that this board adopts to develop those control measures. And importantly, it's really because it's about public health and air quality. We have a duty to do that work ourselves. That all, again, ties into the term of the agreement. So next slide. So how do we solve this? What we were looking at was part of this is how do we bring packages to the board? And so everybody, an AQMD should be familiar with this. When we bring, for example, a rule to board, that includes the rule, but there's an entire package that goes along with that, including what's called a board resolution. And the board resolution is where there is direction from the board to staff. So there's a lot of priorities that we can look at as staff to follow, and the board sets the policy and directs staff. Here are the priorities that staff should be focusing on, and that happens in the board resolution. So what we did is we crafted some draft language, and that's available with that document that was released on Tuesday, that directs staff to pause rulemaking for 5 years, but report back regularly on the progress of this agreement. And that resolution would go along with this agreement should this move forward to board. At the same time, to be consistent, the agreement itself includes a 5-year term, but it says nothing about what we would do on rulemaking, about any requirements in there. But that shorter term, less than 10 years, it still allows plans to be developed and initial implementation of those plans to begin. But again, there will be a review of these plans and of this agreement by all parties as we go through it, and a review kind of before the end of the term to see what's next, right? Do we extend it? Do we continue it, amend? What's next when we get towards the end of the term? The last provision I want to pause on really quick, there is an early termination provision in this agreement. And that was in the initial draft provided to us, and it's stayed there in this current version. And it's a 90-day walkaway provision that any party can notify and say, hey, we're going to walk away in 90 days. At first blush, it looks like, well, gosh, that's really easy to leave. Like, what's the point? But what I think all recognize is that if we're going to do this, we want it to be successful. All the parties want this to be successful, and we're going to try our hardest to make sure that it works. And if someone leaves early, we know that there's repercussions for that, right? Not within the agreement itself, but there are going to be repercussions if a party leaves early. So it actually puts a lot of pressure to make sure this program can actually work. Next slide. Okay, so let's get into some of the details of what's actually in this agreement. So looking at the zero emission plan development, it's a phased approach, and this is reflecting feedback from the ports, recognizing where they are when it comes to cargo handling equipment for container terminals and drayage trucks. That's a lot of what happens down there at the ports. There's been a lot of work on that. Those plans could come earlier, so that would be phase 1, and that would be in 2 years. Phase 2 would look at the rest of the cargo handling equipment at non-container terminals, local switchers, that's the locomotives that operate on site, and then hovercraft, and that plan would come a year later. And then phase 3 would look at ocean-going vessels and the fueling infrastructure needed for that, and that would be a year later. And this is more accelerated timelines than were built in the original initial draft agreement. There's some key pieces to this down in the blue box that I want to highlight here. First is the concept of planning targets. And a planning target is really a level of implementation and a timeline upon which that would happen. And it's an important part that was actually included as part of proposed Rule 2304. And that same concept has come here into this updated draft agreement. Along with that, there's project milestones. That's increments of progress, right, of how we're making sure that things are moving along and staying on track. But importantly, both of these are set by the ports based on their own policies. That's the same as proposed Rule 2304. It allows the ports to develop their own policies and set their own programs. As part of this, though, when developing those policies and those programs and planning targets, they would have to provide drafts, revised drafts, to ourselves and to the public so that there is opportunity for stakeholder input and feedback into that. And then we also recognize that there's sometimes things come up. And so we built in a clear process for time extensions on development of the plan that's up to 90 days. But some things can get a little more complicated, like CEQA. So if CEQA requires more time, we built in a specific process on that. And again, this is just making sure the rules of the road are clear for everybody. Next slide. Okay, so what happens when a plan is approved and a change needs to happen, right? And anyone who's been involved in infrastructure development knows that things happen, right? Like the timelines need to change, some complication arises, that's quite normal. But not all of that is something that we as AQMD have a role to take care of. We're not the project delivery entity. We're not the construction manager. We have an oversight role, but it's not quite at that level of detail. That's something more for the ports or the project delivery entities. They're the ones that really need to know every little modification. What's important for us? When we're looking at this, it's really when there's big things that are happening. So for example, if there's a new state or federal law that makes the plan invalid, well, the plan needs to get updated, right? Or if the ports, as they've set their planning targets that match their policies, if they change a policy and that changes a planning target, that's something that needs to be modified in the plan, and that has to go back to the Board of Harbor Commissioners. So we set up a process on how to do that, and it's quite similar to how the plan itself gets developed. However, if it's just changing an interim milestone that, the idea was that maybe something was going to be delivered in the second quarter of a particular year, and now it's the fourth quarter of a particular year, but the end planning target doesn't change, we just get notified ahead of time that that's going to happen, and that gets reflected in the annual reports that will be coming to us so that the public also knows about it. Next slide. Okay, more on public process. Again, we think this public process is really critical to both the implementation of the plans and the development of the plans. And so this is built in that there's notification to the public of when a new plan is available, a minimum review times, and there's a balancing there of needing to make sure these projects and plans move forward, but providing meaningful opportunity for public feedback. But again, this is, when it comes to public process, it's not a one-way conversation. It's not just listening, it's what's that response. And so making sure there's a written response to the comments, and it could be, hey, we disagree, and this is, what the ports would be saying. If they disagree, that's fine, just provide the justification. And then public meetings as well. And again, it's just to help encourage that dialogue. Next slide. Okay, so what's our role specifically? And we do have an oversight role that has been built in, and this was not in the initial draft, but it is in the version that was released earlier this week. And so thinking about a verification role for us, the agreement itself includes a series of criteria for what it should be in a plan. And so we would be reviewing, is the plan complete? And we would be signing off on whether or not that's complete. But it's not necessarily oversight whether or not the plan is, we agree with the policies. We can comment to the ports on that, but that's not something that we would necessarily enforce, but we can say whether or not they did everything they said they were going to do in the agreement. Whether they've met their schedules that are laid out in the agreement, time extensions, et cetera. So, we would be verifying whether they followed all those procedures correctly. If they have milestones that are within the port's control, we're going to be verifying whether they've met those. And then we also have a role on any mitigation funds generated from enforcement, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. We have a role there too. When it comes to enforcement, that's really specific triggers that are laid out in the agreement, and that's quite similar to how we have our rules. We enforce on what the rule actually says. So we would have specific triggers in the agreement for what we would enforce, and it's looking really at what is within the port's responsibility. When delivering, an infrastructure project, there's a lot of entities involved, utilities, tenants, ports, et cetera. But because the parties are just the ports and ourselves, we would only be enforcing on the parties. So again, it's looking at triggers like, did they submit their ZE plan on time? Did it include all the appropriate elements? Did they follow the public process? Not whether or not they responded appropriately, but did they respond? And did they have the appropriate review time periods? Is there a failure to modify a plan when they should have modified it? And getting on that implementation side, it includes us making sure they're hitting their milestones. They said they're going to do something, we can enforce on that. Next slide. So talking a little bit more about enforcement, I'll just say as a personal note, I am quite surprised we're at agreement here. We've been stuck on this issue for a very long time. And we've come up with a framework that we think works for all parties here. And it really is modeled on how we do enforcement already on South Coast AQMD rules. So I talked through the triggers that are there. There is a process that's built here for how we would issue a violation, and then how do we settle that violation? It's opportunity for the ports to provide substantiating information, so it's a case-by-case basis. There's financial consequences for violations, and then there's a clean air fund that those funds would go into, and let me talk about that in the next slide. So I guess there's two main components to talk about here when it comes to the financial side of enforcement. So on the left here, thinking about the violations themselves, this is set as a series of escalating steps so that there's different categories of violation, and it really is looking at the severity of the violation. If there's a repeat offense, then the severity goes up and the fine would go up. If there is a delay, and then a longer delay, and then a really longer delay, then again, that tier of enforcement goes up. Moving over to thinking about spending the funds, one thing that is really critical is that if these funds are generated, that it's the board here, South Coast AQMD board, that has the ability to approve how to use these funds, taking into account public feedback and input. And we built that process into here as well. One wrinkle in this is that the ports have a legal requirement to ensure that any funds they spend in a contract follow the Tidelands Trust doctrine. So we've built in a process that we think that can actually work. So it's a little bit different in that respect, but we think that we've found a pathway that can work. Next slide. Okay, some last miscellaneous elements that I haven't covered just yet. So dispute resolution, there's a series of steps here on dispute resolution. And part of this is that if it's just a staff-to-staff disagreement, there's a, elevated up to the executive officers and they can work it out potentially. Mediation is always an available option as well. And the parties can also go to court and say, look, this is a contract, it should be enforced, and we'll go to court about it. Separately, looking at cost recovery, this is a new provision, and this is very similar to when we have rules and we need to enforce on, say a stationary source rule. We have our regulation 3, and that allows us to charge or recover the cost of staff time. And so the rates that are here would be the exact same rates that we would use. It's, just the traditional how we would do it through regulation 3. We did put a $100,000 cap on that. And then finally on, I mentioned earlier, a lot of problematic language that was really captured in a lot of the recitals, that front piece. And the main thing that I think happened there was really a focusing of the language. What's really required for the agreement? And if there's extra stuff, it's not needed. It's just extra. Let's not get into it. There was a piece there on SIP credit. So SIP, State Implementation Plan, getting credit for emission reductions. There was a big piece of that in the initial draft that came to us. And I think that reflects where a lot of these MOU discussions were back pre-2020 timeframe. It's kind of a time and place in SIP history. I'm not going to go into that history here, but I think that's why it came in, and it doesn't really serve a purpose now. When it comes to SIP credit, that's for the air quality agencies to figure out. Us, CARB, EPA, we figure out SIP credit. The ports don't really have a role on that. So a lot of that language was taken out. There's a nod that, of course, we can go do SIP credit, whatever we need to do on that on our own, but that was all taken out. Next slide. Okay, there's some other measures that were included in the initial draft that was provided to us, measures 1 through 5, covering ships, trucks, cargo handling equipment, locomotives, and workforce development. And, we've been really, going in deep on the infrastructure because that's where the focus of the rule was. And we agree that more time would be needed to get to these other measures. But really the framework that has been built in the recitals, in the agreement, and in the infrastructure planning and implementation to take those concepts, and those can be adapted into these other measures. But when we look at even on proposed rule 2304, that also doesn't include anything on these other kinds of measures on vehicles or on equipment. We have been saying the whole time that would take more time beyond proposed rule 2304. So similarly here, more time is needed to get to those. I can say, we have talked a little bit with this on the ports, and we do know we're all very eager to get to that. So there's definitely a willingness to get to it. It's just the time frame that we have. So we are seeking committee input on this, on how to proceed on the future development of these measures. Next slide. Okay, so last slide here. So just to sum up, we have reached agreement through all of the hard work of all the parties on the recitals, on the agreements, and on the zero emission infrastructure planning and implementation. And that's reflected all in that draft, updated draft agreement that's now available, including the draft board resolution language. And that again is the same scope and focus of what was in proposed rule 2304. So what do we recommend? Well, because we've come to this agreement, we should move forward, well, at least that's what we're recommending. We should move forward with that updated draft agreement. But we do know that this just was released on Tuesday. We think that additional public process is really critical here. And so we would like to do some additional public process. And if there's good suggestions that come forward that the parties can agree to, that could be incorporated. But given everything that I just walked through, we believe that releasing the 75-day package at this time is not something that we would recommend. With that, I'll conclude my remarks, and we look forward to the discussion, and we're available for questions.
All right, before I open it up for questions, I just wanted to thank you, Ian, and the rest of the team. To say this was a heavy lift is an understatement. So I appreciate all the time and effort that was put into getting to today. All right, with that, I'm gonna ask the board members if there are questions for staff.
Madam Chair, McKell, I also want to echo the appreciation I have for all of the effort that staff put into this, both at the district and at the ports. I know there was daily meetings that went on for hours. And as a result of that, we came up with an agreement. And I really want to express my appreciation for all of the effort on both sides. And this, as I understand it, this incorporates everything that's in Rule 2304. Is that correct?
Yes, the scope it's different, but it's the same scope.
Same scope of effort. So thank you very much. And Madam Chair, I'll reserve my comments and questions after public comment.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Rodriguez.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Just want to thank Ian for the presentation. I'm extremely appreciative of the hard work of staff to have the laser focus in working so tirelessly with the ports to get to this point. Also appreciative of all of my colleagues on the governing board who allowed for this 45-day period, and to hear that there's a consensus is very gratifying and encouraging, and just, again, a testimony to the mutual commitment to get something done that's meaningful, impactful, and significant. So I'll reserve any questions or comments after public comment, but thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. At the end of the staff report, there was a comment that there'd be an additional public process. What would that focus on? What would potentially come out of an additional public process?
Yes, thank you for the question, Supervisor. So we are currently planning a public meeting to hear that feedback, and we expect that there would also be written comments that would come our way as part of that. And so if we were to move forward on this, and before we would actually bring an agreement to our board, that we would go through that process first and provide that opportunity to make changes if there's good ideas that the parties can agree on.
And so that's a singular meeting that will occur?
At this point, that's what we're planning for.
Thank you.
Technical difficulties. Is there any other board member questions before we open it up for public comment?
No, Madam Chair, but I did want to note that I am here and listening and looking forward to hearing public comment. Thank you.
You've got a full house.
Madam Chair,
right.
Indeed.
We have about 20 in-person speakers here.
Okay, all right, well, let's start with that. I think there are members of the public in several offices, so but we'll start with the main office.
Chair, before we get to that, I just wanted to note that for agenda item 2, Councilmember Rahman doesn't have a financial interest, but it's required to identify for the record that she's a council member for the city of Los Angeles, which is involved in this item, and I'm doing that for her. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead, Mayor McCallum.
Thank you very much. First off is Jorge Quintero.
Good morning, Chair and board members. My name is Jorge Quintero, and I'm a representative for the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters, representing over 90,000 members across 12 states. We care deeply about the clean air and the jobs that keep our community strong. We appreciate the hard work that the AQMD staff and the boards have done to reach a cooperative agreement on zero emissions planning. This agreement includes real provisions, enforcement, transparency, emission reductions, and it's built through weeks of meetings and genuine collaboration. Because of that, we respectfully ask that you follow the staff's recommendations and hold off on releasing the 75-day package for proposed Rule 2304 so that the parties can finish what they started. We believe that this cooperative approach is the best way to protect air quality while also protecting jobs. Thank you for your time and considering our request.
Thank you, Jorge, for your comments. Next, Marvin Norman, and after him will be Thurl, if you would line up.
Morning, Chair, members of the board, public. Marvin Norman, a CCAJ, San Bernardino resident. It's of course interesting to be here again 2 weeks after I was last here, and we're kind of at exactly the spot where we figured we'd end up, which is where the AQMD sounds like we're abdicating our authority and just letting the ports just run a roughshod all over the community and continuing the deaths of 3 people a day. Reading through the cooperative agreement, it looks like it's pretty much a clear giveaway to ports. And I remember when we first started this little escapade, 75 days ago in August, one of the main points being brought up was from the ports was that the cooperative agreement would be stronger than the rule anyway. So if there's agreements stronger than the rule, then what's the point? What's the problem with passing the rule? Because especially since the agreement has a pullout a provision of, either side gives 90 days to leave, then what is the incentive for the ports to stay if there's nothing underneath it? First off, we're dragging this process out. Even staff is saying, we need more public process before we finalize the agreement, which is, good that we're at least getting public process and at least in name to finalize the agreement. But we're already dragging this out and continue to drag it out. So it's going to continue on. At this point, who knows if we'll even get the agreement finished before the end of the year. And then they could leave at any time with 90 days notice. And without a rule underneath it, what is the incentive that the ports have to stay in the agreement? It's obviously a clear giveaway to them in that regard, and that it's just a ploy to continue to do nothing substantive and to not be able to be held accountable. It's good, that their advertising and stuff says, we're green port and clean port. Good. Then why are you afraid of the rule? The rule's already been weakened from what it was originally intended to address, and is now largely covering infrastructure. And while it's not unreasonable per se to say that there should be some time to get the infrastructure in place, the idea that we should have an agreement that how is an agreement going to work if either side could leave at 90 days and there's no incentive underneath to keep them in, and especially from the side of the ports. Obviously, hopefully from AQMD side, there'd be an incentive to stay in just because we want to get the emissions and hopefully some emissions reductions come out of it. But without emissions reductions being concretely agreed to, and with the fact that we can just leave kind of at any time with the mere 90 days of notice, that sounds like we're not getting to we're not going to be able to meet the intent of even that the weakened rule would have provided. So please just pass the rule.
Thank you, Marvin.
Mayor McKellen, I'm sorry, I neglected to say if we could keep public comment to 2 minutes. We have about 50 speakers between all the offices.
Okay, we'll limit the comments to 2 minutes each. Next is Thurl, followed by Eddie Rivera. Go ahead, Thurl.
May I start?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and I want to give my appreciations to staff for the work they have been doing on this process. And the process is moving forward. Without a rule, it makes no sense to me, because we will be in the same place we are 5 years from today, or whenever the rule is, the MOU is certified. That leaves the law at your cap. Number two, the 5 years, I'm not clear if that means there is a prohibition for rules during that 5 years, or is it only after they walk away from this agreement? Those things are extremely important to me. I live in a community that's disproportionately affected by pollution. Those communities have not received any relief from that. And most of it is because of the work activity at the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. So it sounds like they're doing a great job, but there's still some significant areas that need to be closed, and a rule would do that. The MOU, after 5 years, we still don't have anything. That's heartbreaking. We're suffering. Neighbors, people I love are dying because of the negative effects of the pollution that the ports have been and continue to release into the atmosphere. They are pumping poisonous gas into our homes. That needs to stop today, not tomorrow. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Farrell. Next is Eddie Rivera, followed by Sarah Whitfall.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Eddie Rivera, and I am a member of the Laborers International Union of North America. And I just wanted to take a minute to express our support for this cooperative agreement. We, in the South LA area, represent over 4,000 workers that are interested in continuing working. And for that and many other reasons, we are in full support of this cooperative agreement. We hope you can move forward and keep it going forward so that work can continue as it should. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Next, we have Sarah Whitfall, followed by Mike DiBernardo.
Good morning,
Good
Chair
morning.
Delgado and members. My name is Sarah Wiltbong with the Supply Chain Federation, a national association representing ports, warehouses, transportation, labor, and the many links of America's supply chain. Over the past 45 days, the ports and AQMD staff have worked in good faith towards a serious solution-oriented cooperative agreement. In that time, the city's ports and AQMD reached consensus on all terms related to zero-emission infrastructure, planning, including meaningful provisions for enforcement, transparency, and real emission reductions that can deliver faster, more accountable outcomes. We support the direction to move forward with a cooperative agreement to the governing board consistent with your August motion, and we want to thank the AQMD leadership and staff and to the ports for all the hard work to get us to this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Next, Mike DiBernardo, followed by Heather Tomley.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Delgado, fellow committee members. My name is Mike DiBernardo, Deputy Executive Director at the Port of Los Angeles. I want to thank the board for its clear direction to staff to negotiate a collaborative agreement with the San Pedro Bay ports. This commitment is a landmark moment. It redefines how the ports and the South Coast Air Quality Management District can work together to achieve our shared goals for clean air. After 45 days of intense and productive negotiations, we have a draft agreement. This document addresses the core issues raised by the district, the ports, and the public. It includes time-bound and enforceable commitments, establishes robust public process, and clearly defines the roles for the ports and the district. We believe this draft agreement serves as evidence that collaborative approach can work. We request your support the staff recommendation to hold the 75-day package so we can focus fully on receiving public input on the agreement and bring a final agreement back to our respective boards by the end of this year. We look forward to building on this framework to further accelerate emission reductions at the ports. I'd like to thank the staff at South Coast Air Quality Management District as well. They were great to work with and very collaborative and very professional. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Next is Heather Tomley, followed by Fernando Gaitan.
Good morning, Chair Delgado, members of the committee. I'm Heather Tomley with the Port of Long Beach. I first want to thank your staff, in particular Susan Nakamura, Sarah Reese, and Ian McMillan, for working with the ports nearly nonstop for the past 45 days. Our negotiations have been collaborative and productive, and we've all been working toward the same goal. Following the direction at the August board meeting, I wanted to be able to represent today that we met your expectations to deliver a cooperative agreement that we can all support to set the path for zero-emission infrastructure planning and implementation at the ports. And I'm happy to say that we've met that mark. The draft agreement released on Tuesday reflects the collective agreement of the staffs and addresses the points that we know to be critical to your board and the public: action, enforcement, public participation, and transparency. We're committed to continuing to work with your staff to negotiate the language on other measures that will provide additional benefits and emission reductions. For us to push this over the finish line, we agree with the staff recommendation to hold the rule package to allow us to focus fully on seeking public input on the draft, supplementing the draft with further enhancements, and finalizing the agreement for approval in December. We appreciate the opportunity that was given to us to allow these negotiations to proceed, and will continue to do our part to make sure that this approach is successful and supports clean air. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Next, Fernando Gaitan, followed by Thomas Yelovich.
Good morning, Fernando Gaitan with Earth Justice. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment and for the presentation. Let's be very clear. The agreement before you today that was negotiated had zero community input. It was done behind closed doors. We continue to say that a rule is always the best path forward, but it's clear that an agreement is the path that this agency is willing to take here. It's important to note that the authority that you derive to enter those agreements is centered around being able to facilitate your obligation to reduce emissions and address air pollution in our region. So it's therefore disheartening to see a proposed agreement that explicitly abandons emission reduction standards or even goals. 5 years takes us into the next decade before any emissions reductions are actually tackled. As you proceed to look at the other measures that were spelled out in the original proposal and to think about how public input will be received, I would offer to you, we plan to submit written comments on the proposal that you have in front of you, but we encourage you to really look at what you're giving up. And we suggest that you look at setting clear, quantifiable goals for emissions and any new agreement. Demanding more than just grant seeking, ports should be able to find ways to raise additional revenues from their own programs and tap into reserves and even contributions from industry to make this transition, not just taxpayers. And establish clear checkpoints. 5 years is too long. You should have a 3-year checkpoint and not give up your rulemaking authority if in 3 years these promises are not delivering the results for communities who need the relief. You should pivot to rulemaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Next is Thomas Yelovich, followed by Ryan Calbreth.
Good morning, Chair Delgado, committee members. My name is Thomas Yelovich. I'm here on behalf of the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association. PMSA represents the marine terminal operators and ocean carriers serving the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Today, we are here to fully support the staff's recommendation to enter into a cooperative agreement between the district and the 2 ports. We would like to thank this committee and the full AQMD board for its leadership in creating the room to negotiate this agreement. We'd like to thank the staff of AQMD, Wayne, Ian, Susan, and all the other staff at the district who worked closely with the ports. And we'd like to thank the port staff that worked on this agreement. We have a long road ahead of us in terms of implementing this agreement. We should not forget this will be technically difficult to implement and construct all the infrastructure we will need to complete this transition, but we do believe that this cooperative agreement is the best path forward to complete this task quickly and with the focus all of us need to bring to this matter. So thank you for your time this morning, and again, we support this agreement.
Thank you, Thomas. Next is Ryan Calbreth, followed by Brian Jose.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Appreciate the staff's work. My name is Ryan Calbreth, staff organizer for the United Electrical Radio and Machine Workers. We represent rail crew drivers throughout the AQMD region, and we are in favor of cleaning up the air around all rail yards, including those that operate around the port that were cut out of the rail yard ISR that was passed last year. Yeah, I think to not release the 75-day package would be a big mistake, given that the ports have walked away from previous agreement-making processes. I don't know the last time anyone on staff or on the board was a tenant, but landlords exercise disproportionate power to their tenants and use regulatory processes like these to delay. So I guess just don't fall for that trap and release the 75-day package, continue with the rulemaking process, maintain your leverage and your authority as a regulatory body, which feels very funny to say as a member of the public, begging a government body to do their job. But here we are. That's all I got. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Ryan, for your comments. Next, Brian Jost, followed by Joaquin.
Before we go to that speaker, I just wanted to announce that we're going to be closing off the online comments after the speaker. So if you would like to speak online, please raise your hand. We will be closing it off after this next speaker is done.
And Madam Chair, I wanted to flag that we have at least one speaker in City Hall who would like to make public comment.
Okay, yeah, I'll go to all the rooms as soon as we're done with the main office.
All right, I'll start. Good morning, Brian Jost with the LA County Business Federation. Just wanted to say thank you to staff for the ports and for AQMD for this good faith negotiation. We are supportive of staff's recommendation and truly look forward to moving the ports and AQMD together into the future for clean air for everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Joaquin, next, followed by Dory Chandler.
Good morning, staff and community. My name is Joaquin Castillejos. I am an organizer with the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice and a resident of the Inland Empire. I'm here to advocate to the board to release a 75-day package and to continue the rulemaking. The process that is being taken now is a betrayal to the communities all across Southern California that have been waiting for clean air, that need clean air, and that have been participating in meetings and workshops to have their voice heard. And now, we're going to a place where this will go behind closed doors and not involve community. We need to prioritize the community over business, over industry, over the economy. Of course, the business sector is here thanking the board because they won't have to do anything that will hurt their profits or will come to actual change. If this was a rulemaking process, if this was actually going to put some restrictions and will force them to get on a path to clean air, they would not be here thanking the board. But the community would be here thanking the board. Instead, it's backwards, and the community is the one that is on the opposite side, that is being thrown to the side, that is not being prioritized, that the health and safety is being ignored once again. So the board, please release a 75-day packet and continue the rulemaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquin. Next is Dory Chandler, followed by Chris Chavez.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dory Chandler. I'm a policy advocate with the Coalition for Clean Air and a resident of Long Beach. Earlier this month, we got my child ready for their first day of school. It was an exciting time seeing their friends again and starting first grade. 3 days later, a cold turned very quickly into their first asthma attack. It was a very scary time for me as their parent. AQMD authority lies in its implementation of emissions reductions through the Clean Air Act. The AQMP specifies that the district is committed to measures that will include the development of an indirect source rule applicable to sources at the San Pedro Bay ports, as well as pursue incentive funding or other voluntary measures, not in replacement of it. Planning targets for both infrastructure and emissions reductions are necessary to uphold the public health duty of this agency. The ports have already achieved vast improvements, so there should be no fear of implementing emissions reductions in a rule and incorporating these into both CAP measures and SIB credit. We believe the Air District must continue on with the rulemaking process and release the 75-day package. Collaboration between AQMD and the ports is wonderful. However, a regulatory framework allows for public participation. While AQMD and the ports have had 45 days of negotiations and 15 meetings, the public was not allowed at any of these. How about providing us with the same opportunities, 45 days of negotiations and 15 meetings? For a meaningful process, community needs to be at the table. The district committed to a public process in the development of and passing the ISR. Any process now should be as rigorous a process as the district already committed to in receiving public support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dory. Next is Chris Chavez, followed by Matt Dickinson.
Board members, Chris Chavez, Deputy Policy Director at Coalition for Clean Air. We oppose the staff recommendation and urge the district to release the 75-day package as you negotiate the MOU. Yes, this is an improvement. There's enforcement language, there's steps, there's a step in the right direction. But the fact remains that the MOU still hinges on the district surrendering its regulatory authority. It is unacceptable for our air quality regulator to wave the white flag to the largest source of NOx emissions in Southern California, in the smoggiest air basin in the nation. The proposed MOU also doesn't specify how this district will meet its obligations to implement all feasible measures under the California Health and Safety Code. Just as you have no plan to meet your air quality standards, you have no plan to meet state law. I also want to push back the notion that all stakeholders have been part of this. We haven't. Sending out language at 9 p.m. on Tuesday when the hearing is at 8:30 in the morning on Friday is not notification. Having one public listening session in lieu of a multi-year public rulemaking process is not consultation. We didn't even know that staff would be recommending discontinuing the rule when I asked them yesterday. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Sarah. Environmental health and community advocates, public health advocates have offered suggestions, ideas, feedback for decades. We have gone to bat for the district in Sacramento and DC. We have never gotten in the way of the district doing its job, have only helped. And I am sick and tired of being told we hear you and continuing to be disregarded. If the Inland Empire can have a warehouse indirect source rule, why can't I have a port rule for my community? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Chris. Next is Matt Dickinson, followed by Maria Reyes.
Hi there, Matt Dickinson here. I'm the sustainability person at Phoenix Marine Services in the Port of Los Angeles. At first, I'd like to thank the board and the staff and the ports for the hard work they've put in, a lot of hours to develop this draft agreement. And I'd also like to express my support for the continued pursuit of an agreement. I'd just like to highlight a few things that have happened at the ports since 2006 without a rule. DPM, diesel particulate matter, 98% reduction. NOx, 72% reduction. SOx, 98% reduction. Greenhouse gas overall, 20% reduction. That's a great start. We realize we have more to do. And to that end, I believe that pursuing an agreement is going to achieve the best outcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Maria Reyes, followed by Paula Vargas.
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre.
Double the speaker's time since she's going to
Buenos
be.
días. Mi nombre es María
translation.
Reyes. El AQMD se fundó con el propósito de combatir la contaminación y proteger la salud pública y hacer cumplir las leyes y regulaciones federales y estatales.
Good morning. My name is Maria Reyes. The AQMD was funded with the purpose of combating all contamination and to protect the public health and to make sure that the laws are followed.
Para garantizar la calidad del aire y regulando las fuentes estacionarias y todo lo relacionado que contribuye a la contaminación.
And federal regulations and state regulations to guarantee the quality of air, regulating the sources, the stationary sources in everything that is related to what contributes to this pollutants or contamination.
Me veo en la obligación y la necesidad de preguntar qué pasa. ¿Han olvidado su misión y su compromiso?
I am obligated and I'm under the need to ask what's going on. Have you forgotten your mission and commitment?
Necesito que le den prioridad para emplear el ISR por respeto a su misión y a la salud pública.
Continúe.
Y seguir por el camino a cero emisiones.
I need that you give priority in order to apply the ISR regarding your mission to public health and to follow the path of zero emissions.
Necesitamos urgente esta medida por la salud y por todos los padecimientos que tiene mi comunidad. Y no se dejen intimidar por el poder de los puertos. Hagan su trabajo.
And we need this urgently on behalf of the health of our people, of our community, of getting to zero emissions, and do not be intimidated by the power of this port.
A lo mejor soy muy agresiva en pedirlo así, pero la necesidad lo exige y la salud, lo que uno padece en su comunidad. Gracias.
And maybe I'm being too aggressive in asking it in this manner, but really and truly, the health of the public deserves it and needs it. Thank you.
Gracias, Maria. Next is Paula Vargas, followed by.
Mayor McCallum, before we go there, we still have about 40 speakers and the meeting is intended to end by 10. We have some board members that have to leave. I'm just going to poll the board members if we should reduce it to 30 seconds per speaker or cut off public comment at 9:45. But I'll let this speaker go. She's there, and then we'll take that up.
Go ahead, Paula.
Okay, thank you. Hi, good morning. My name is Paula Vargas. I'm an organizer with ECR Communities for Environmental Justice, and I'm also a resident of the Harbor area. I'm here to ask the committee to ensure that rulemaking continues and to push for stronger measures in what the ports have presented in the MOU. The MOU is still lacking in emission reduction targets, accountability, and ensuring actual progress is made, and community input. There should be regular opportunities for community members to give feedback on the MOU, not just in the form of updates, but in the form of actual engagement. Up until now, there has been a complete lack of consideration for residents that are being directly impacted by port pollution, and we would like to see better. My bad. There should also be adequate monitoring and frequent opportunities for staff to evaluate the MOU's effectiveness at reaching emission reduction goals. Ultimately, communities still deserve an ISR, but the board should make sure that whatever's on the table, whether it is an MOU or not, is as strong as it can be. We have been consistent in our asks and our priorities, and it hasn't faltered at all since the rulemaking process began back in February, I think, when working groups started. Again, I ask that the committee ensure rulemaking continues and that they uplift community concerns throughout the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Okay, so I did confirm that we'll still have quorum if members have to leave. One member has to leave at 10, but I suggest that we take down the public comment to 30 seconds. We still have about 40 speakers. Board members, your thoughts?
Agreed.
Supervisor Mitchell?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, we've been talking about September 19th. I'll be here until whenever. Perhaps we prioritize the people who are here to provide public testimony who have not been a part of the negotiation process. People who've been a part of the negotiation process have had their voices heard. We have their letters. But the members of the CBOs and the public who are not a part of that process, and perhaps we prioritize hearing from them today.
Okay. Councilmember Rahman, any comments, thoughts?
I know this is a big meeting, but unfortunately we have, I have committed to council meeting at 10 a.m. that part of which I'm leading a presentation and members are here. So I sincerely apologize for my time constraints. On a normal day, I would have more flexibility, but today I just don't. So my apologies.
Are you comfortable with 30 seconds or should we continue without your, I want to be respectful of your role.
Chairwoman, I leave it to you. That's not for me to say. I think these are just my constraints and I'm sharing them with you. As I mentioned, we have one speaker here who also wants to give public comment, but.
Okay, well, let's reduce it to, I'm sorry, Mayor McCallum?
Well, it looks like there's 29 online who want to speak, and I have 3 more here in person. And we've got 25 minutes left. I don't think we can get through, even with 30 seconds, get through that.
Mayor McCallan?
Yes.
The meeting ends at 10:30. We have
Oh,
close to an
10:30,
hour.
okay.
No, we're just trying to accommodate,
Okay.
yeah, but let's try 30 seconds. And if people have prepared remarks beyond that, we're going to be, cognizant of that. But go ahead, Mayor McCallan, and then we'll go to Councilmember Rahman's office.
Okay, Jennifer Cardenas. 30 seconds, and up after that is Zagri. Go ahead.
I think this is the most disrespectful thing you've done in a long time. 30 seconds for 10 years of community engagement, and you gave the ports 45 days. This is unreasonable. And again, 3 shirts are representing the 3 people that die every day because of all of your inactions. I understand some of you have meetings, but you called this a special meeting. You should have given the decency to these community members to actually engage with you. This is ridiculous.
Thank you for your comments. Zagri, followed by Al Sattler.
Chairwoman, I just wanted to say, I want to encourage you to allow for public discussion and comment on this important issue. My schedule is not going to impact quorum in this committee. And, I leave it to your judgment on how you want to engage with the public here, but, I just want to be clear, and I'm sorry for my limitations today.
No, thank you. I just want you to be a part of the discussion. But let's keep going and hear public comment.
Zagri, followed by Al Sattler.
My name is Zagri. I live in the Inland Empire, and I am from a frontline community and a student focused on mechanical engineering. Southcoast, you have been given a strong port ISR by your staff with community voices, and yet you are ignoring the people of those community members. Do better by communities and pass a port ISR instead that will actually protect the people.
Thank you very much. Al Sattler is our last public speaker here in the auditorium.
Okay, Al Sattler. This cooperative agreement is a nice agreement to keep talking without any commitment by the ports to clean up air pollution. It's nice that everybody agrees that air pollution is a bad thing. However, it is outrageous that the AQMD would sign on to an agreement that under limitations, the parties agree that the agreement does not establish an emissions cap or any other port facility-wide limit for NOx or any other pollutant. I do support.
Thank you, Al. Madam Chair, that completes public comment here.
Great, thank you. Let's go to Councilmember Rahman's office.
Great, we have one speaker here.
Good morning, honorable members of the Mobile Source Committee. My name is Eric Martel with the Office of Mayor Karen Bass. On behalf of Mayor Bass of Los Angeles and Mayor Richardson of Long Beach, we thank you for your leadership in putting aside the rule to work with our cities and our ports over the last 45 days on a cooperative agreement. In light of substantial progress we have made together, we support staff's recommendation to allow the ports and the district to finalize the agreement. We are committed to completing this process with the same level of investment and engagement our teams have demonstrated to date so the governing board can adopt the final agreement before the end of the year. We firmly believe that the cooperative.
All right, so you can keep going. I said that we would be, go ahead.
Balancing clean air, community health, economic vitality, and the job security that this framework presents with the most effective and collaborative path to achieving our shared goals. Thank you for your continued leadership and partnership as we work together toward a cleaner, more sustainable future for the region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
Supervisor Mitchell, do you have speakers in your office? Okay. Board Member Rodriguez? Anybody live in your office?
No, thank you.
All right, I do have speakers here in my office, so I'm gonna start that process.
Okay, start. Good morning, Chair Delgado and committee members of AQMD. First, after hearing all this, I want to give a heartfelt thanks to the staff of AQMD and the ports of Long Beach and the ports of LA on behalf of APM Terminals. APM Terminals have significantly reduced the amount of emissions that we have over the last few years. We have in excess of 70 all-electric pieces of equipment, and that's putting us well on our way.
I'm sorry, past the 30-second time that we've allotted for speakers.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Angie Gilbride. I'm speaking on behalf of AP Muller Maersk on item 2. I want to thank the ports, the mayor's offices, as well as AQMD staff for their significant efforts over the past 45 days to reach a mutual agreement. Thanks to the collaboration among ports, regulators, and industry, air pollution around the harbor is at its lowest recorded levels. Maersk is proud to be part of that progress, and we believe our industry can even go further through implementation of this agreement and through the Clean Air Action Plan Plus. That's why we respectfully urge you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, if we can go to the online comments, please.
Madam Chair, unfortunately, we had a speaker who signed up, but her name wasn't on this display, or that person's name, Delinef, I think. Is that how you pronounce it?
Okay, let's go ahead.
Thank you.
My name is Dolly Neff. I live in the Inland Empire and I'm a in a frontline community. I've learned that the community has been advocating for a port ISR for almost 20 years. This agreement is insulting to the communities that have been fighting for clean air. Don't forget those black shirts. That represents the 3 people that die every day in the ports community. Take action and ensure a strong rule, not an agreement that has no substance.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to go through the online comments? We have 27 speakers who've signed up.
Sure. The first speaker is Peter Schrappen.
Good morning, Chair Delgado and committee members. My name is Peter Schrappen, Pacific Region Vice President for the American Waterways Operators. We appreciate the effort put forth into this cooperative agreement and are impressed with the good faith that went into these negotiations. AWO is the tugboat, towboat, and barge industry's advocate, resource, united voice for safe, sustainable, and efficient transportation on America's waterways, oceans, and coasts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sal DiCostanzo. Sal?
Good morning. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union locals, who represent over 17,000 members that work in stevedoring, maritime, warehousing, mining, and law enforcement within the South Coast Air Quality Management District, respectfully request that the South Coast AQMD not release the 75-day package for proposed Rule 2304 in order to allow the ports of LA and Long Beach, acting on their cities, with the South Coast AQMD to finalize a collaborative agreement. The CAP has been wildly successful, and we believe that the CAP Plus will get us the rest of the way. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sal. Fernando Marquez Duarte.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair and board members. Fernando Marquez Duarte, just wanted to flag that we are urging HMD to release the 75 rule package. We have been, as a community, sidelined from these negotiations. This cooperative agreement doesn't include any emissions regulation. It actually says that they won't be held accountable for any. So we need the release of the rule package.
Thank you, Fernando. Clyde F. is next. Clyde. You need to unmute your mic, Clyde. Let's move on to the next speaker and we'll go back. Next speaker is with Advocacy Team LAACC.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Valerie Berkeley, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, the largest business organization in the Los Angeles region. Thank you for your work and time today. The Chamber attended the August Governing Board meeting where the board voted to allow negotiations to move forward between SEAQMD staff and the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. The Chamber has supported a negotiated solution called a cooperative agreement to continue the successful collaboration of the past 2 decades. This approach builds on the proven approach of the Clean Air Action Plan, which has both ports on a pathway to zero emissions infrastructure.
Thank you. Our next speaker, again, is Clyde F. If you can unmute your microphone and speak, please. You're still muted. Let's move on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Paulina Alvarez. Paulina Alvarez.
Good morning. My name is Paulina Alvarez, and I'm calling on behalf of the Orange County Business Council. We would like to echo the comments made by the PMSA and Supply Chain Federation and ask the committee to continue with the collaborative agreement and not release a rule. A collaborative agreement is essential for fostering sustainable economic development and ensuring the continued growth and efficiency of goods and movements. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Logan Richardson. Logan Richardson.
Good morning, Chair Delgado and committee members. My name is Logan Richardson, and I represent MSC Mediterranean Shipping Company. MSC fully supports the cooperative agreement and setting aside the proposed rule. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Polash Mukherjee. We can hear you.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning. I'm a Culver City resident speaking on behalf of the Coalition for Clean Air to oppose the proposed pause on rulemaking in the cooperative agreement. I urge the MSRC to reconsider this de facto moratorium, especially concerning CAP plus measures 1 to 5. While measure 6 is addressed, the full set of action needed for emission reduction and public health improvements in PR 2004 is neglected. The reported requirements also fail to capture vital emissions data. A clear focus on rulemaking is not only essential, but is imperative for achieving air quality goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris McLaughlin.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chris McLaughlin, speaking on behalf of the Western Tree Nut Association and the California Cotton Ginners and Growers Association. Both of our organizations would like to support the comments of the PMSA and the Supply Chain Administration and urge the board to adopt the cooperative framework presented today. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go back to Clyde F. Clyde F., if you can unmute. Okay, there you go. We cannot hear you if you're saying anything. We appear to be having technical difficulties with Clyde. Let's move on to the next speaker, Sylvia Betancourt. Sylvia.
Good morning, board members. Sylvia Betancourt with Long Beach Alliance for Children with Asthma. I'm also a resident of Long Beach. I'm here speaking for children, little lungs, future generations, and all developing and their developing lungs. I am concerned that this does not really truly address public health. I see the words, but I don't see that it is pointed, actionable, or measured, and really must be improved, and really does also need community engagement in order to make decisions that are meaningful.
Thank you, Sylvia. Our next speaker is John Kendrick. John. You need to go ahead.
Good morning, John Kendrick from the California Chamber of Commerce. We strongly support the progress that is made by the ports, cities, and South Coast AQMD developing a cooperative agreement for zero emission infrastructure. Collaborative approach represents exactly the type of partnership that will get real projects built faster and effectively deliver air quality improvements. We echo the comments made by PMSA, Supply Chain Federation, and others, and also support the staff's recommendation to pause the proposed rule while this agreement is finalized to move us closer to meeting our clean energy goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jacob Brint. Jacob.
Hello, my name is Jacob Brint, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the California Retailers Association. We respectfully urge the committee to continue negotiations with the ports and pursue a collaborative agreement rather than moving forward with the formal rulemaking process. We believe this approach is the most effective path toward achieving our shared clean air goals. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Ramirez. Kathy. You need to unmute your microphone. Go ahead.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you all now.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Morning board, my name is Kathy Ramirez with Move LA. I wanted to echo public comment from previous orgs urging you to release the 75-day package and bring back the public process. Want to reiterate the lack of deliverability without emissions target or milestones. It is quite disappointing that the presentation wasn't released with sufficient time for the public to review it. And as the agreement is being discussed in closed doors, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ma Carmen.
¿Me escucha?
Yes.
Oh, buenos días. Soy Ma Carmen González, miembro de la comunidad de San Bernardino. Seamos honestos, estos acuerdos no nos llevan a nada bueno, no sirven, lo hemos comprobado en el pasado. Ahora, en 5 años, ustedes nos atan las manos, estamos atados de manos. Hablo por mi comunidad, hablo porque en 5 años las muertes seguirán avanzando y cuántas muertes por parte de la comunidad se harán. Ustedes no se dejen intimidar por los puertos. Ustedes salvarán vidas. Ustedes no lleguen a arreglos. O sea, un...
Thank you. Our next speaker is Megan Weinman. Megan.
I'm Megan Wyman, Vice President of Sustainability at SSA Marine. SSA Marine is the largest marine terminal operator in the Americas with a significant presence at the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. The agreement enables us to reach our company's zero emission goals and decarbonization targets. We know there's hard work yet to be done, and we're ready to start that work. We support the AQMD staff's recommendation to move forward with the cooperative agreement. We thank you for this process, and we look forward to getting started on the work.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Harvey Etter. Harvey, if you can unmute your microphone.
Yes, being heard? Am I being heard? Yes. Okay,
Yes.
You should have been here at 7-8 this morning. My family's commercial fishermen and have been for about 50 years. All right? Enough of this crap. This is murder. That 3 people, that is not right. The Lancet says 1 to 1.5 million in the country. We're 12% of the population. That is like 30 to 100 each day. That's the real. And enough of this. This is murder, and you're all responsible. You cannot give up your police powers. It's garbage. It's 30 seconds. It's garbage. We brought this up time and time again. You purge us.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christina Mohabir. Apologies for the pronunciation.
No worries. Good morning, Chair and Board. Grishina Mohabir with EnviroVoters. Glad to comment. I appreciate the good faith effort being made to reach a sensible middle ground by the ports and South Coast. I'm still urging the board to release the 75-day package. AQMD foregoing their authority to regulate goes against how the rest of the state is taking necessary backstop actions on air quality when our hands are being tied the current agreement has outstanding issues and real deliverability concerns. We need to release the package so we can let ourselves consider all options in tandem and take prudent, informed action. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is W. Bartleson.
Good morning. William Bartleson, Vice President on behalf of the Pacific Maritime Association. I endorse the cooperative agreement because it's the right approach and the best way that the local cities, ports, shipping industry, organized labor, and the local communities can achieve impactful and sustainable change. I urge continued commitment to the cooperative agreement to achieve the necessary infrastructure changes necessary to continue the path towards zero emissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is only identified as iPhone.
Adrian Martinez with Earth Justice. I just wanted to point out that if the action today is to not release the rule package and there's no time limit, if that's an indefinite action, you talked about people meeting daily, and that was in the context of having a 45-day clock on them. So I'd encourage some consideration. Is this an indefinite pause if that's the way the committee goes, or something? And we support releasing the rule package, but I just wanted to flag that one issue.
Thank you, Adrian. Our next speaker is Melissa Troff.
Hi, good morning. I'm Melissa Traw with the Central Valley Business Federation. I echo the remarks of PMSA, the Supply Chain Federation, and many others. We applaud the staff recommendation and ask for your support to continue collaboration and postpone releasing the rule, because cooperation, not regulation, is the surest way to reach our clean air goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you. Elizabeth Esquivel with the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. Also want to echo the comments by our partners with PMSA. We appreciate the staff for their work in reaching to this point. The cooperative agreement before you secures everything you aim for in a rule, and through negotiation, it delivers even more. This is a strong example of achieving environmental goals through collaboration without compromising economic.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Adam Ruiz. Adam? Please go ahead. We don't hear you. We'll come back to you. Our next speaker is Dustin Reinhardt. Dustin?
Hi, this is Dustin Reinhardt with CMA CGM. We'd like to support the path forward with the MOU, and we do thank the Port of LA and Long Beach, as well as AQMD staff on their collaboration and our continued partnership. Again, this is CMA CGM, leaseholder at Phoenix Marine Services, and we request solely the path forward with the MOU. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, let's try Adam Ruiz again. Adam? Your microphone appears to be active, but we cannot hear you. Let's give you time to try to fix it, and we'll go back. Our next speaker is Robert Loya. Robert?
Do you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Robert Loy with the Harbor Trucking Association. We fully support the proposed cooperative agreement. We are committed to working collaboratively with the port and all stakeholders on the CAP Plus program. Our goal is to participate in the development of effective, feasible, and fair measures that will genuinely help the ports meet their milestones without creating unnecessary disruptions and financial burdens. We believe this collaborative approach is the most efficient pathway forward to create win-win solutions and reach our environmental goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Ruiz, this is the last time we're going to try, so hopefully it works. Adam? And unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be working for Adam. Let's go to our next speaker, Bruce Linderman. Bruce?
Good morning. This is Bruce Linderman on behalf of the International Warehouse Logistics Association, California chapter. Thank you to the board and all stakeholders involved in these negotiations. And we echo previous comments in support of the staff recommendation to hold for 75 days to finalize the cooperative agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mike McCarthy. Mike?
Mike McCarthy, Riverside Neighbors Opposing Warehouses. Environmental rules are under attack at the federal, state, and local levels right now, and you guys are following the trend. There's no path towards meeting our ozone attainment standards within the next 15 years. And your public participation process sure makes the business groups happy. They're all here and in support. Excluding all of us pesky residents certainly makes the air quality less clean and makes us unhappy. I can't understand how this is the process by which a government agency works. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Christian Tapia. Christian?
Hello, good morning. My name is Christian Tapia with Pacific Environment and a Long Beach resident. Want to echo that this has definitely been a frustrating process and urging that the board release the 75-day rule package as it committed to doing so back in August. While the new draft would be for a shorter term, it still blocks the air district from doing its job at regulating port pollution through the remainder of this decade. And while the MOU lacks specific emission reduction targets, we have no clarity on whether this will be explored in the next phase. We also have no clarity about when this will be.
Thank you. That concludes the list of online speakers, Chair.
Okay, with that, I'll close public comment and open it back up for board member comments or questions. Did you have something, Mayor? I was gonna start with Councilmember Rahman.
Well, if I might, I'd like to ask the ports a question.
Oh, she's got limited time. If you don't mind going next.
Okay.
Councilmember Rahman.
Thank you so much. I wanted to ask a couple of questions, including about other legislation that might impact our regulatory authority in this case. We had spoken in the past about a Senate bill that limits AQMD's regulatory powers here. And I think that does have a bearing on the negotiations as they're ongoing. Can staff or anyone provide information on the status of that bill and the likelihood of it moving into law?
The bill passed out of the legislature and will be going to the governor's office. I know there are a number of requests for the governor's office to veto, and I'm probably sure there's probably requests for the governor to sign. But that's all I know with regards to the Senate bill itself, SB 34.
Yeah, I guess my question is just whether you have a sense of whether the governor is likely to sign or veto this bill. We often have discussions with government representatives. We have a sense of where people are. Sometimes the governor makes public his preferences in advance, as he's done in the past.
I can't speak for the governor's office, council member.
I'm not asking, I was just asking for your intel on where the governor's office is.
As I said, I know there have been a number of requests for a veto, and I'm sure there's others that have moved to approve it. We obviously put in a request for a veto.
Got it. I just wondered on the enforceability provisions and the financial penalties. I'm just trying to understand what are the pathways through which the ports can be held to the agreement. And I heard some of that. I just wondered if you could provide a little bit more detail on what that looks like and what it would look like in terms of kind of board authority to, or AQMD authority to be able to make sure that the parties to the agreement are able to move forward with their commitments.
Thank you for the question. So I think there's two responses I'd have. First, within the agreement itself on the enforceability provisions, that will be staff that will be monitoring the implementation of the agreement by the ports, whether they're developing the plans and hitting the targets for that development or the implementation milestones, whether they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing there. And so that would be up to staff. But we would be reporting back to the board every year on the status of that implementation. And the board, of course, has its ability to provide direction to staff on how to proceed with the agreement.
What would happen if they didn't meet pieces of the agreement?
I think we would be reporting out on that if there wasn't implementation. And so if there was, the penalties that were, if we impose the financial consequences on the ports, tier 1, 2, and 3, that would be going on at a staff level, that we would be providing that, but we would be reporting that to the board, and you would be seeing what those consequences were.
So I think Ian's trying to convey that every month at the board meeting, we convey penalties and enforcement actions. But the actions I think that you're referring to, council member, with regards to the port's actions or lack thereof, or perhaps they didn't report an issue on time, all of those are subject to the agreement. We would take action. We would be working with staff with the ports, and we would take whatever appropriate action we deem necessary. And then we would report that back, but we wouldn't be seeking board approval to take enforcement action. That's a staff action, and that's what we would move forward with.
And if the ports decided that they were unable to meet the goals of the cooperative agreement, and they were to say, we dissolve this agreement at that point, and they're able to do that as part of this agreement, right? They're able to say, we can no longer meet these, or we don't feel like this is in our best interest. If they dissolve it, then does that then give us back our regulatory authority to move forward with other kinds of efforts? Or how does that operate?
I would argue that we always retain our regulatory authority. The board is asking staff to not proceed in rulemaking at this time, but the board always retains the ability to direct staff to move forward. If the parties, either any party, were to cancel or to notify that they intend to withdraw from the agreement, our board could then take appropriate action and direct staff to undertake whatever effort it deemed appropriate.
Got it. And just a kind of a final or a question. I see that the action before us is your recommendation is for us to not release the rule packet and to continue with this, what has seemed like a productive discussion with the ports that you've described so far, which has gotten us further on questions around enforceability than we had answers to in our previous board meeting, which is really exciting. Are you recommending a indefinite pause on our rulemaking, on our rule release, or is it another time-limited pause?
The recommendation encompasses the agreement itself. And so long as we're within the terms of the agreement, which is 5 years, and everything is being done accordingly, and should the board direct staff to not pursue any type of rulemaking action, that's what we would do. So it would be for as long as the term is in effect, and as long as the board is of the mind that they don't want us to pursue that.
Sorry,
And
so
but
today we don't have the cooperative agreement before us today, right? So we're still negotiating on that agreement. So are you suggesting that we put an indefinite pause on releasing the rule packet, or that we, as we said in our last discussion, we'll release it on September 19th in the hopes that we'll get to someplace more productive? Are you saying again that we have another release date that we're going to get to in the hopes that we can get to finalizing the remaining outstanding questions? Like, I'm just trying to understand what the negotiating posture is, because I do think that, look, I am excited by a lot of the pieces that you described, including greater enforceability. I do think that the threat of the September 19th deadline helped us get here as quickly as we did. And that's our power. That's our power as a regulatory agency. And so I would want to, if we're not planning to release the rule packet today, I would want to ensure that we're continuing to maintain that leverage on the process. Again, the outcomes are shared outcomes. The goals for cleaning our air are widely shared by labor, by the ports, by our mayor partners, and by this board. But our speed in moving towards those goals came about in part from the fact that we had a deadline here. So I'm just curious about that.
Thank you, Councilmember. You do have the cooperative agreement language that was released Tuesday, and that language reflects consensus between the ports and between the district, and it is an agreement that I believe is worthy for your consideration. We do believe, as Ian mentioned earlier, that we would like to get additional public input on that draft agreement. And if the committee directs us to do so, we would then initiate a public process to seek comment. And then we would also seek to come back to the full board in October to provide an update. If we go through, let's say, a 30 to 45 day public process and we are able to respond to comment, it's conceivable that we come back to the board with potential changes. Those are things that we would have to work through with the ports and bring that back to the board for adoption. The additional measures, though, that Ian spoke about, the CAP measures 1 through 5, I want to note we are, and when I say we, I mean the respective staffs are in full agreement that we see opportunity to move forward and to resolve those measures and to bring those back to the board as quickly as possible. We heard the port staff mentioned by December. I think that's very aggressive. We probably need a little bit more time, and I know staff would appreciate that, but I think given the good faith efforts and given the current schedules that we have, we might need a little bit more time. But as you said, council member, having that firm date does provide a tremendous incentive to get this done. So we would respect the direction from the board as we move forward.
And I would just, I'll stop here with my questions, but I would just recommend to members of this committee that I am comfortable with, given the progress that we've seen in the cooperative agreement, I'm comfortable with following staff's recommendations, but having an indefinite pause on rule release feels like it takes away the urgency of the discussions that we've been having. And I would just recommend to you, Chairwoman, that we, similar to how we did last time, put a deadline on these discussions so that we can continue maintaining this pace towards getting to our shared goals. So thank you very much for offering me the opportunity to make these statements up top, given my time constraints. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I cut off Mayor McCallum's question, so I'm going to go back to that, and then we'll go to Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask the ports a question. Would the ports representatives come to the microphone?
We have David here from the ports as well in City Hall. So if you need us to unmute here, we are able to answer questions.
Thank you very much. Would you again tell us your name and what your duties are or whatever, who you represent?
I'm Heather Tomley. I'm the Managing Director of Planning and Environmental Affairs for the Port of Long Beach.
And I'm Mike DiBernardo, Deputy Executive Director at the Port of Los Angeles.
Okay, well, my question is if you as representatives of the port can agree today that the ports will continue to negotiate in good faith on CAP plus measures 1 through 5. I agree with staff's recommendation to not release the 75-day proposed Rule 2304 rule package and to bring an additional agreement for the other CAP plus measures to the board in the spring of 2026. Comments on that?
I think, speaking on behalf of the Port of Long Beach, we have stated our commitment to this process. We want to see this through to a successful conclusion, and we're committed to continuing in the negotiations with staff to see this through to the end. So I support what you've just stated.
And as the Port of Los Angeles, we also support what you just stated. We'd like to continue our negotiations on the remaining CAP measures and come to a conclusion as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Well, then, based on that commitment, I would like to move to direct staff to not release the 75-day proposed Rule 2304 rule package and to have the updated draft cooperative agreement with the ports on zero-emission infrastructure planning presented to the board at its November meeting for approval, but prior to the November board meeting, direct staff to host a public meeting with the ports and solicit public input on the updated draft cooperative agreement. That's my motion.
Thank you, Mayor McKellen. Let's go to
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me just say at the start, with all due respect, Mayor McCallum, and you know I respect you greatly, I think that if we could ask people to promise not to drive at speeds that were dangerous, if we ask people to promise not to walk into stores and take things that they didn't buy, none of us would need to serve an elected office. We pass laws to make guarantees. So I appreciate the ports are pledging their commitment. I appreciate that. But AQMD is a regulatory entity for a reason. The EPA is holding us accountable to air quality standards for a reason. And I'm have a growing concern that we appear to have lost our appetite for rulemaking. It is a growing, deep concern. A member of the public made a comment about cooperation versus regulation. That's an idyllic world. And I don't know that I or any of my ancestors could have relied on cooperation versus regulation and acts of the court and acts of elected body to get us where we are today. So that's an idyllic world that I unfortunately don't have the privilege to live in. Let me start my comments, Madam Chair, and I will do my best to be brief, by thanking all of the community-based organizations and the members of the public who respectfully and tirelessly show up to these meetings every time. Please know that you are heard, and your sentiment and the members of the public who you represent, I hear you and I appreciate you because you don't have a financial interest in these negotiations. I appreciate you showing up. And I think they should be thanked for their commitment and time as well. I just want to say that I have asked publicly, and the letters I continue to receive have never clarified for me how the rule as proposed would have a negative impact on jobs, and yet this cooperative agreement does not. A cooperative agreement that we're all applauding has gone further than the rule did. And so I'm going to ask members of labor again if they could provide me with that clarification. You know, the release of the 75-day package again gives me concern because this board voted and agreed. And so I hope that we're not going to get into a position where we ignore past votes of the board at the behest of vested interests. I agree with Councilwoman Rahman that the 45-day time frame clearly is what got us to this point. It intensified negotiations. And if we go back on the agreement and the motion that we already passed and we agreed on a board and not release the 75-day package, I'm not sure where that leaves us. Very briefly, I'll say that, there are things in this agreement I like, and there are things where I think the process fell woefully short. I like that there are strong enforcement provisions with teeth. I know this was a serious concession from the ports, and I'm grateful for their willingness to compromise, and I appreciate the significant mitigation fees and the public input process on how they are spent. It is important to notice that we and the ports can withdraw with 90 days notice if the process isn't working. And I would ask that our board resolution both signals faith in the agreement, but also allows us the discretion to pivot to regulation if it were to become necessary. To that end, I support the notion that the board take a look back at a 3-year mark. That would be a time when we come together to evaluate whether we're seeing meaningful emissions reductions, and it would give us a chance to actively affirm whether the agreement is working or if we need to choose a different path. With regard to my concerns with the document, I think that this process that we've engaged in really could set a bad precedent for others that we are attempting to regulate, that they think that it's okay to come in at the 10th hour before a rule is released and be able to negotiate away a regulation. I'm also disturbed that the one thing community really wanted was an emissions cap. And let's be clear, I'm not going to glamorize the rule. The rule didn't have an emissions cap either. So let's all tell the truth. The rule nor the cooperative agreement has an emissions cap. And let's also tell the truth that an emissions cap is not the same thing as a cargo cap. No one wants a cargo cap. No one wants a cargo cap. So that an emissions cap has been taken off the table without any input whatsoever from those who are being most affected by the emissions. Again, I agree with the CBOs and the environmental justice community. It's offensive. To that point, I'm committed to seeing significant emissions reductions come from the negotiations of the other parts of this agreement. That's my expectation. That will be the ask I put out there in the universe and hope people will adhere to it as well. Furthermore, I think it's critical that the community get more of an active say in these negotiations. They too are a part of the process. They too have to live within the communities that this work is being conducted. I don't know that a single meeting is fair or appropriate. With those points in mind, and again, I think a challenge that we all have to commit to and undertake is to commit to insisting on serious emissions reductions and shifting to a different approach if we don't see those in the upcoming negotiations and in our near future. I appreciate and thank the staff, the ports, and all of the vested interest in the work that you've done over the last 45 days. That's what negotiations are. And willing to move forward with the staff action today with reservation and some reluctance. But again, please know that I will continue to elevate the issue of emissions cap because that's where the real teeth should be and what our collective goals really must be. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Board Member Rodriguez?
No comment. I would just call for the vote.
Okay. I think that just leaves me, and I'm comfortable with the motion. I don't truly understand, and maybe it's just because of the timing of it, but the CAP plus measures and how that comes, how that essentially allows us to move forward in December, and then does that come after? So if we could have a full board update in October, and then maybe have a little bit more information on that, Wayne. I know this is a work in progress, but that's the one part that's still unclear about what we'll know in December if we're asked to vote on this, or November if we have to vote on it.
Yes, we'd more than happy to provide a full update to the full board in October. And in the meantime, we are looking forward to the result of your motion, Mayor McCallum.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum?
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell?
Yes.
Councilmember Rahman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez?
Yes.
Chair Delgado?
Yes.
It passes 5 ayes.
All right, so we'll take this up again as a discussion item in October. And with that, we have a number of written reports. Are there any questions or requests to see those as a presentation? No, see none. And I don't see any hands raised for public comment on those written reports. I don't have any other business. Does anybody have any other business they'd like to bring up? Okay, with that, we'll reconvene October 17th and have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.